I just got through cutting out this part on my 6040 CNC machine that I bought probably about a year ago now. And I wanted to make this video to show people who are interested in doing this kind of what you have to do in order to get this going. Because I'll be honest with you, for a hobbyist, the learning curve for this type of thing is pretty steep, because you've got to know how to use a program like Fusion 360 to get your model to start with, and then you have to generate the G-code, and you use G-code to tell this machine what to do, and then you have to have a computer that's set up to run this machine, and you have to use like Mach 3 or Mach 4 software or something like that, but you have to program it all so that it will run this machine. You have to get the connections between the computer and this working. You've got to get your control box working. And then you've got the learning curve of learning how to set up your set up your part, set up your blank, cut it out, and all those kind of things. So anyway, this video is just to show you briefly how you can go from a model that you have in Fusion 360, how to make that G-code. And I found it hard to do that, so I just did a real quickly, how can you make G-code come off a part and be able to cut that part out. And then I showed how to basically set it up on here and actually cut this part out. So anyway, I hope this is interesting to you. This is the model that we're going to use for the demonstration today. It's just a ruler for a long arm sewing machine. You trace along these contours with the machine in order to transfer that to your quilt. But it's just a basic 2D model that works well for this demonstration. So the first step that we're going to need to do is we go up here to the upper left corner and hit Design and then Manufacture. Now the first thing we have to do is set this up, and the CNC machine is considered to be a milling machine. So we're going to hit the setup button right here, and that brings up the dialog box over here. And the first thing we're going to do is select a machine. I prefer this Autodesk generic 3-axis because it fits my machine well. If that doesn't work for you, you can look at other machines that they have over here in the library and see something maybe that matches you a little better. But that one should work for any basic 3-axis machine. You hit select on that. Again, it's a milling operation. Now over here, the orientation is just going to be the model orientation. And then the origin is the stock box. So it's the origin is going to be this the stock that we're going to use. And then over here, the stock point is the box point. Now, I don't like starting the origin in the middle of the part. To me, that's hard to locate when you're trying to make sure that your the model that you're cutting out is actually inside of the piece of wood that you're using. I like to use the top left-hand corner. Well, it's actually the bottom left-hand corner, but it's in the top of the material. That way I can locate this really easy with my CNC machine. And if I have cut off a piece of wood that's at least the size of the part, I know that when it gets through cutting, it's going to fit inside of that. So that's where I put my origin right there. Then we're going to come over to the stock right here. And I like the relative size mode. It's just going to do it 40 thousandths bigger on the around the edges, the sides, and the top. The bottom is 0. It's just going to be flat on the bottom. And then we come over here to the post process, and we're just going to name this 3-inch scallop. And then our work offset is going to be G54, because that's what that's the offset that Mach 3 or Mach 4 normally uses. Hit OK. Now we're going to come up here, and you can see where it says 2D. We're going to hit the 2D contour right there, and it's going to bring up this dialog box over here on the right. So now we go to the tool, hit select, and this is going to show the ones that I have used in the past. Now down here under local library, under Soapmon tools, these are the tools that I have set up myself in the past. But if this is your first time doing this, you're not going to have any tools set up. And so to me, the easiest way is you come down here to where it says tutorial, either inch or metric, depending on if you've got an inch tool or a metric tool. But say you're setting up an 1/8 inch end mill, you would click on this. And you can scroll down and you'll see that there are flat end mills. There's not an 1/8 inch, but you can click this 1/4 inch. And what you would want to do is right click it, copy the tool, and then once you've copied it, you can change up things in it. So in other words, you can come over here and you can say what the diameter is and change those things to be what fits the tool that you're actually going to use, and change the name of it, and then store that over here in your private library so that you can then come like this one right here and double click that, and now you have your tool in here. Now all of your feeds and speeds, when you're setting up your tools, you'll need to look up for the size of that tool and the material that you're cutting, exactly what your feed or speed should be, and I would encourage you to decrease those feeds and speeds just a little bit, not necessarily the RPM, but how fast it's traveling, just to give you a little bit more of a wiggle room there to keep from breaking bits and stuff like that. Okay, but anyway, so you got your tool in here. Now we're going to go to our geometry. So what we want to do here is the contour mode. You're going to make sure that it's set on selected contours, and then pick the contours that you want it to mill. So if you click, I want to click this bottom sketch where I drew it originally. That's what I extruded this out of. And so that's what it's going to cut out. I don't care about the stock contours. Now tabs is something you might care about. As you can see on the diagram on the right, the part is inside of the waste material, and there's little tabs holding it to the waste material, and that can help you keep a part in place while it's being completely cut out. I just make sure that my entire part is fixed down to the bed. I put double-sided tape on it and stick it down so I don't have to worry about that. And then I don't have to remove the tabs when I'm done. All right, the next tab over is heights. Now we're probably, if everything's set up right, we're not going to change anything here, but we are going to look at it. So we're going to go up here to the box and click front, and then we're going to look and see what we've got here. So it's showing that the table base is down here, and then our part is sitting on top of that. This is where it thinks the top of the part is, which is good. This green line and this orange line are just showing where the orange one is where it's going to move rapidly, and the green one's where it's going to move as it's cutting out. And it's all where it ought to be. So that's all good. So don't care about any of that. Next thing we're going to do is move to this tab, which is passes. Let's go up here and click the home button again, just to get us back in an orientation that looks a little more like something we would be used to. Okay, so don't really care about a lot of this. I'm not going to walk through every single one of them. Normally on this stuff up here, I just leave this all alone. But we are going to go down here and we want some roughing passes. So we're going to click on that. And now the roughing passes has opened up. I don't really care about any of these. You may want to, this step overs, if I hover over it for a second, you'll see the purple lines. It's just, this is how far it can move in with each step. So if you have an 1/8 inch bit, you don't want to move in more than 1/8 of an inch each step you come in to clear out the material, or you'll have bands of uncleared material. But in this instance, I'm just going to cut around the part. I don't care what happens with the waste stuff out here. I just want to cut a groove through the waste material and leave this part in the middle. So I'm leaving that. Then we're going to do multiple depths. Now the maximum roughing step down, and what this is going to do is this is how far is it going to drop down? How thick of a layer is it going to cut each time it cuts around this? 40 thousandths is kind of shallow. So I'm going to change that to 50 thousandths. I am cutting in plexiglass, so I don't want to make too big of cuts. So I'm going to do 50. The finish step down 0. I don't care about this 8 thousandths because I'm going to come down here later and say finish only at the final depth. I'm going to click that. So what that does is, as you can see in this little diagram, the first one where it says disabled, it'll drop down the 50 thousandths and do a roughing cut. And then it'll move in and do your finished cut. Then it'll drop down another 50, do a roughing cut, and then move over and do your finished cut. So you have multiple finished cuts going down the side, and you'll find that you'll have a line every time it does that finished cut. If you enable this, it will do all of your roughing, then it'll drop down to the bottom and do one finished cut all the way around. Now, you may be that your part is too big or your material's too hard or something like that, and your cutter can't do that all at one time. But I know this cutter can do 200 thousandths in one pass of a finish cut. So that's what I'm going to do. And then this roughing final just means that it's going to rough this part all the way to the bottom to start with. The only other thing I'm going to check is this order by islands is already checked. And that just shows kind of how it moves around as it's doing it. And you'll just have to figure out which one of those fits for your part. But for this one, this will work fine. Okay, and then this last tab is the linking tab, and we don't care about that one, so we're just going to come down, and we're going to hit OK. Now, let's move over here to to the left-hand side to the contour, 2D contour, right-click that, and we want to simulate this part and make sure that everything looks right. So we click that, and it's going to run around, and it's going to cut out our part. All right, now we're going to look at the top of this. And we can see here is the line that we were cutting, and it was actually cutting on the inside of the line. That's not what we want. We want it to cut on the outside of the line. This is the line that we want left. So let me show you how to fix that. So you're going to close this simulator, and you're going to go back to this 2D contour, right-click it, hit Edit, and go back to your geometry. When you have the geometry tab clicked, you can go over here and you see this red arrow right here. You're going to left click this arrow and you'll see it jump. Now, if I zoom in, you can see it's on the outside of the line. If I click it again, you can see it's on the inside of the line. So we could have told this before we started, but now it's on the outside of the line. This just threw me off for a while, so I just wanted to show you how that works. Now go back and click OK. Now we're going to zoom out. And we can see now under the simulation that this has cut on the outside of my line. So I'm happy with that. So the next thing we have to do is we're going to right click that 2D contour and we're going to go to post process. Now it's got our generic 3-axis in here and our 3-inch scallop. This is where the output folder is where it's going to output your G code. And that's where you're going to go get it to put it on the flash drive or however you're going to transfer it to your machine. The extension is a TAP file. And I know that Mach 4 uses a TAP file, so does Mach 3. So that's all going to work great. And then I'm going to come down here to the bottom and I'm going to click Post. We're going to come back and we're going to right click that. And we're going to do Open the Output folder. Okay, and so we're going to open this. And it's going to open it with Visual Studio. If you don't have Visual Studio installed on your computer, you may need to do that so that you can actually come in and edit your G code. But you'll just, if it's not showing up here, there's a little tab right up here. You'll click it because it might open saying something like that. I've got to go down here, and I know like this on line 17, that's a tool change, and I don't have a tool changer, so I'm going to take that out, and I think that may be it. But you can add things in here, different G codes that you may or may not need. Okay, so we're going to come up here and hit File, Save. You may not need this at all, but it gives you an idea of how you can easily get in and change your G code before you start. We saved that, so now we're going to stop. And we're going to copy this to our flash drive, and I'll see you at the CNC machine.